Hey guys, welcome to Tim's Garage. In this episode, we get this thing really ready to put some power down. We're talking major supporting mods as far as suspension and bracing goes. So we're talking coil overs, diff mounts, sway bars, adjustable end links. Thanks for watching. This is how you do it. Okay, so today this is what we're working on for the NPS. We've got these scale coil overs. These are really nice looking shocks. One of the reasons I really like these is it's got some smart stuff on it. Cowlick. Actually got measurements on the side. Most don't, and you're sitting there with rulers measuring them up, making sure they're all the right kind of settings. These ones don't. The rear shocks are just massive, which is good. I'll put them next to the stock ones and I'll pull them out and you'll be able to see just how much chunkier and bigger they are. Able to hold some weight, and of course your rear springs. If you're not sure how the coil over system works, these springs actually at the back work your height. So the spring is your height and the strut is like your stiffness, firmness. So the front's got both in one, so there's your spring for your height, which you can adjust there, and then you twist a setting at the top to make that stiffer. Now while we do this, it's a great idea to do some supporting mods, and so we're going to do just that. So because for this job we're going to do a rear subframe drop, so doing that we're going to install a CPE rear diff mount, really good quality unit there. We're going to also install a white Widow front diff mount, which will be really good. Supports the rear diff. We've got a white line sway bar sitting there that we're going to put on, and adjustable end links also to go on sway bars both front and back, which are going to be great. All this stuff is available and was purchased for this store through NewAgeAutoParts, so make sure you hit them up. Nate and the team there will do a really good deal for you. But this is, it's time to drop this thing and give it some stiffer handling, support that rear end, and get into it. So what have we done? We have installed, so far we've removed the old shock tower, which is sitting there, not very nice. We've installed our new one, which you can see it's in there nicely. You line up the three holes at the very top. I've mounted this and I've gone a fairly stiff setting. I'll work out the middle setting, probably for a start. Or I'll go a stiffer setting and see how it is, but we'll try that out. So that's just the bolts on that, they're 12mm, that's a 17 on the top, 12mm heads on those bolts, they're nuts, sorry, to put that shock in. What I tend to do is I use a jack up the unit, that way I can get this bolt in here, that bolt right there, that holds it onto the unit, the sort of fork that comes around your drive line. That way I can get good pressure in there, get that done up tight. I've reattached my steering rack, and I've also reattached the bush that controls the shock to the lower control arm. Now what's next is the sway bar, and we've got an adjustable end link for that sway bar that'll fit into there and run up to there. Then I've got my brake line, which is sitting here, and all I need to do with that is clip on the supplied bracket that came with that. I didn't put that on first because I thought I'd be spinning this a fair bit. This unit, when you need to spin it now, will require you to undo that bolt, undo that nut, and then spin this unit. Hopefully you'll see how we're going. Once again, I would use a jack to sort of hold some of the weight so that the whole unit doesn't drop down with the weight of your brakes and the wheel assembly there. Yeah, but that's what we're doing. Fully adjustable heights, can tension that spring further if I want to tension that spring, and I'll lock everything into place once I've got the other front wheel on and we've dropped it and we've got an even height. End links. It took me a long time to think of that name. And so this center part turns and it makes them longer and shorter. The best part about them is you can lengthen it to put them in place, and once they're in place I can actually turn that by hand at the moment, shorten that. The only reason I can turn that by hand is the jack's still holding the weight of that. I'm going to put this in place. I'm going to sit that in there once that's where I want it. Just kind of nice, kind of like that. That's pretty rough. That's pretty rough. But we'll sit that in there. I'll use a couple of zip ties just to hold that in place. Just because I don't want to twist that. Otherwise I could actually sit that in there and twist, put the bolt through there, but I don't want to twist this line too much. They're the hard ends. If there's a braided line, maybe I could do something else, but anyway, I'm not running a braided line on this at this stage. But yeah, that's it. That's the front almost done. Once we've done that, it's yeah, wheels on, drop it down, measure it up, see if both sides are the same. Yeah, pull the wheels off, check it again, do that a couple of times, and once that's good, then we'll get onto the back. as you start customizing stuff, everything needs to be customized. And so I've got adjustable end links, but in order to get them to fit with the bracket, I've had to cut off one of the ends. This actually isn't going to get a lot of movement this way. It'll flex mostly, sort of, yeah, it'll get a little bit, but it's never going to get that much movement there where it actually needs, because it actually hits against the end. And so I'm just going to pop, I've had to cut off an end of one of these adjustable, the part that fits the rubber O in there, the O sort of soft pad, as you'll see in the other one. Just working on getting this end back in there, very close right now, which is a good thing. There we go, almost there. A couple little locks. If I can just stretch that a little bit, it means I don't have to take any more metal. Kind of don't want to start shaving too much more off anything. So now comes the fun part. We're going to start putting on diff mounts and putting this back together a little bit to firm this centre part up now that we've got our sway bar on, which is, this is a pain just because of the angles and the way it's bent. Still haven't worked out how to do this properly. And so I removed my rear diff mount just to find that one of the parts of that had actually fallen out. I was trying to work out where that came out of, and so it just connects in two spots. These two tabs connect on there, and it was broken, which meant that the whole thing was just sitting either on the extra rubber because it fits in there. It can't really move a lot because of the huge brackets that it sits on, but obviously, you know, there's a lot of play, and all this weight is sitting on with the diff. All the distribution of weight through the diff comes through the rear diff mount and the front diff mount, so if that's broken, that's a bad thing. This CPE make awesome stuff. This one's just ridiculously solid. You can see it's actually got more meat on the end of it there, and there's solid bushes, so they're not going to break. It's going to be a stiffer ride through the back. That's going to be awesome, so we're going to do that. That's pretty simple to do. It comes with extra washers for the top. We'll Loctite them in and use the same bolts as we had on it before for the side. The next thing we've got here is our White Widow front diff mount. Now the front diff mount is a weird design. 2 bolts go onto your diff there, and then a major one goes onto your rear subframe. Bolt goes through there. Now it's a solid washer, which is good, and it's quite a chunky bracket, but even then, like, that design means that all of the weight that is going through it sort of fits through a huge bend, and it's just obviously any twisting has got to go through the whole unit to get through that quite a major bush. But if it's going to break, it's probably going to fail. Maybe in the actual hardware itself, maybe on near the bolts, those kind of things. So what White Widow have done is actually made a replacement which has the stock bolts, stock top, but actually runs extra bolts around kind of the bell housing of the diff itself, which means when you push the power through, the power is distributed through the extra bolts, and you get a much more centralized anchor point, which is much better than just having an anchor point that's a bit on the side. So we're going to fit that as well. Let's get into it. too serious about putting our new shocks in, I'm going to mount the sway bar. The reason being that this thing, it's a weird angle, it's a weird bend, and it really gets in the way. So what I'm going to try and do is actually keep it covered as much as I can. That way it just protects it. It's new, I know no one sees it, but it's nice at the end of the day to know that you've got nice shiny things underneath your car that aren't all scratched to pieces. I've cleaned up this, not too badly. I know once again no one sees it, but it's nice to know that when you put something back in the car it's nice and clean. So I'm going to mount the sway bar. It comes with all the kit that you need to mount on that. The only thing you need to sometimes play with on these is on the NPS there is a light leveling sensor, and so we need to install that back on this car, and so we will do that. But they come with, you can see the bushes in there that'll fit on the ends, the stock mounting slots, and then there's the light which works off this wing, if you can see that. Just do a bit more of a clean, the auto leveling sensor, because the lights on these have a level depending on where you are, and if you had something in the back it would self-level, which is kind of nice. So we're going to have a go at putting these in. It's pretty simple stuff. We'll get the end links back in as well at the same time as this. So we're going to do put the bottom of our shocks back on. We'll put those springs in and we'll set them on a tight compression and get this back together. That way we can put all our wheels assembly back there and make that work. And then from there we will we'll get the shocks all back. So to date we've got diff mounts in, that to do sway bar, then we'll do shocks. Also cutting it off the bump stops here on both sides, just to shorten that up just a little bit. Doesn't have to be huge, but they double as a, you know, they keep things in place, but we also want to make sure that the shocks have enough travel and don't get caught up in that too much, especially if you're going to lower it too much. You don't want to be hitting that when you bottom out on the spring. But we're also going to cut the bump stops a little bit off in the car. I've heard that they're an issue, so we're going to preempt that so that we're not having to cut it once everything's back in. Then we're going to take off the gas struts, the actual shock part that does the firmness of your ride. We're going to take them off. I'll show you what they look like next to the new ones, and we'll refit that, and I'll show you how to fit them in the car. But for now, let's put these things on. So now what has happened is the shocks are in, the springs are, which is all good, and which means that that's ready to adjust. I've sort of got them in a middle setting there, it's about halfway, so there's a little bit of space underneath, and I've got them the same on both sides. Actually that side could probably go up just a little bit just to meet the other one. We can measure all that, of course, and we want both sides to be the same. I've also done up our adjustable end links, one there and one there, and we've modified those to fit. So the rest of the sway bar is in place, so it's not going anywhere, but now it's time to tighten that up. Now this is quite fluky, but I guess that's a good thing. this looks about spot on. You can see there's about that much gap on that end, about that much gap on that end, about identical. If I can get a shot that shows both sides, you can see that it looks pretty similar, which is awesome. So we're going to do those ends up. Yeah, so the cool thing about these is they have a bit of an adjustable height themselves before you even get to your dampener. If you look at the top of these, get in that shot, you can see the top of this has a hard and soft, so if you want a nice, there it is, sorry. If you want it super, right in there, turn it right up hard, nice, it's a firm thing, but it's also once again got, the thing I love about these, it actually has your some adjustability in there as well, which is kind of cool.
I got a cold halfway through this job, and these are the excuses, right? And I know, yeah, it was a bad cold. I had vertigo and a few things, but I put the springs in this car upside down, and I have no idea why. I've done a number of these jobs. I've installed most of the major brands on 6s and 3s, and yeah, no idea why I put the springs in upside down. But yeah, so I'm just replacing them. This is, I guess, if a bit of an insight if you were going to put springs in without dropping the subframe. You can install the entire kit without dropping the subframe. It's just you can't do the rear diff mount without dropping the frame. So if you're going to do it, you might as well do it all in one. But you can do the shocks if you've already got your diff mount. You can do the front mount also without dropping the subframe. The rear one, you have to drop the frame. So what I'm doing here is, you can see where the jack's holding, I'm undoing that part of the car. To drop that down, I'm loosening off the bolts, the 17mm bolts closest to the wheel, and that entire assembly will just then drop down. I'm not undoing the wheel, the bolts close to the wheel, but I'm loosening them. So that will drop down, I can pull the spring in, I can switch that over and put it back up. When it's back up, all I have to do is redo the end links and do that center bolt up on that part of the shock and part of the subframe, and then do up all those bolts again, and it's done. So it's not the end of the world. It's more embarrassing than anything else. I just realised, because I went to check everything was tight, and realised this is ridiculous. Why can't I see the adjustable bits? Yeah, it even looked like in the instructions at one point that that's the way they were. I'm not saying that they were or not, but I had a flip through the instructions and saw that they were facing up that way at some point in the instructions, maybe when they came out of the box, and went with it. So anyway, that's my fault. Happy to own that one. And here we go, dropping down the shocks right now. Out they come, nice and easy, and flip them around, put them back in, job's done, easy. Have been in for about a week now, going for a bit of a cruise to see how they're settling in, see if there's any knocks or creaks or anything else happening when we're going around corners. But so far the car's, you know, really good. I still don't have a wheel alignment done on this. I'm going to leave that for another week. But yeah, look, so far we're so good. We're pretty happy with the way the whole process has gone, the way they went in, the way the install was quite simple. Everything was pretty straightforward. So pretty happy with it all in all. You know, even though I was pretty sick when we put them in, and I did get those springs upside down, which totally, you know, worker's error. That's my fault. Yeah, that's alright. You know, it's all it's all fine. So we're all good now. Everything's going cruisy. You know, you put your foot down, hold some speed, holds a bit of boost. It's all good. So pretty happy with them. We've got a couple of little things I will need to do. What's happened since putting them in is there's a little knock because they're touching the exhaust. Just because they've been lowered, and the movement of the arms that they sit on, the springs, you know, taller springs cause those arms to sit lower, which cause your wheels to sit lower. As they come up, you know, your wheel comes up, and so because of that, it's when I hit a bump, it'll hit on one of the exhaust brackets. I tried to cut that while it was still attached to the car. Not going to happen, so I'll just need to drop the exhaust down a bit to give it some space, and then I'll be able to get something in there just to knock it off. It's only like, it's just millimeters, you know. It's one of those frustrating ones. I could almost, if it wasn't a solid piece of steel, I could almost file it down, but I'll just cut it off. I can't be bothered filing for that long. And the other thing that I've discovered, mostly on the left hand side, the rear left, is that the drive shaft that goes, the back drive shaft that goes to the wheels, because obviously you got your all-wheel drive, so your fronts and backs. In this one, the rear drive shaft, because it's always sat, same thing as why, the same reason, the change in the angle, because we've changed the shocks, because it used to sit you know, lower because of higher spring, and now it's a lower spring, it sits higher. The drive shafts would have been lower, and this car's done 160,000 kilometers, which just on my rough maths is say 120, maybe 100 something, yeah, maybe 120,000 miles. Is that right? 40, yeah, 60s, something like that. 120, 60, 80, yeah, maybe 90, maybe 100,000 miles, maybe. Rough maths, really, yeah, working on the fly here. But that means that for 100,000 miles, 160,000 Ks, it's been sitting on this angle, and you know it's been wearing on the parts that are straight, your wheel and where your diff is. It's been sitting on this angle, wearing like that. But because I've lowered it, you know, this spring's shorter, which raises the drive shaft, and now it's on a different angle. I just found that at slow speeds, mostly slower speeds, I noticed that there's a knock. So the CV joints aren't sitting in where they've worn in over the lifespan of this car so far. it's now sitting in a different spot, so those drive shafts will need to be replaced. One of the things I keep saying, you know, mods equal mods. You start doing something and it means you got to do something else. Happens all the time. You know, the amount of times people replace a dump pipe, which just frees up your turbo so much more, that if it's starting to be on its way out, it just, you know, means it'll flow so much better, and any wear is just, yeah, is just accelerated, so that yeah, like within a month or two, you do a dump pipe, and then you've got to replace your turbo because it was already on its way out. But restrictive dump pipes mean it doesn't flow too well, make it flow better, turbo goes. So yeah, so I'd be looking at yeah, replacing those drive shafts in the next little while as well. That's all good. As a daily, I can honestly say these are fantastic. This is on the softer setting. I'm cruising on a freeway at 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour. No issues at all. It's still don't have a wheel alignment. My steering wheel's not bouncing everywhere. I'm not feeling every bump. It's on a freeway that I can see there's just bits of roadworks all over the shop, and I'm quite comfortable. It's it's all good. I'm having no issues at all with that. I've also got about an inch in the back both ways of adjustability, so I could go higher or lower depending on what I want to do, and that's cool, knowing that yeah, both those options are there, which is cool. So the other thing, the front's got a heap more adjustability, like more, I could have it on the tyre, on the guard if I wanted to easily. There's so much to go there. The other thing with this is that at the moment I actually like where it's sitting, so if you wanted it as a daily, you could raise it up another inch at the back, which isn't all that much different to what I had it on with the King springs that were on it, which were great. It just had no adjustability, and I really want to firm up the back for if I go to the drags and that kind of stuff. I want to be able to control that bog that takes place. Then I also yeah, but I actually like the way it's standing, so I'm not going to raise it anymore, simply because I'm enjoying the stance, put enough money into it that I actually want it to look like I put some money into it as far as looks go. But also the way this is sitting at the moment actually doesn't touch on everything like I thought it would. I thought this was going to be a shocker, but it doesn't. The things that I really like about this is that even with my car, which has got some extra bits on it, so this has got the White Widow front engine mount on it. Now that's a great thing to have, but what that does is with that engine mount, it means that the front bar, the front lip, that is actually sitting about like an inch lower almost in parts, because of bolts and nuts and all kinds of stuff. So it's considerably lower at the front, plus I've got a 3-inch exhaust system all the way through on this thing at the moment, which is huge, and so it sits down and it's got a massive resonator thing in the center. So this car has some low points in it, but even then, as you'll be able to see in some of these pictures, that the stance is really nice. It sits nice. I think it looks awesome. So we'll leave it like that for a while. Maybe I will end up putting it back up to a more usable, daily friendly height in the future. And that's okay. I'm all for that too. That's all good. But at the moment, I'm just enjoying it the way it is. So we're gonna keep enjoying it the way it is, and yeah, go from there. But look, enjoy some of the shots of the car. You'll be able to see some of the stance of this thing. You'll be able to see how it sits. I can vouch that it rides really nicely on its softer settings. Obviously, we haven't done anything serious as far as putting it through corners or anything yet. I'll wait for everything to settle in, then I'll get it aligned, and then we'll go for a cruise, play with some of the adjustments and stiffness settings while we're doing that, and see what we come up with on that. But we're just going over a terribly bumpy section of the road, and like I'm feeling it no worse than I would on any other car. You know, I hear a rattle at the back, which is the exhaust touching, and then I'm out of that. It's nothing's bumping, rattling, everything's fine. So yeah, pretty happy with it, gotta say. Good shocks. If you want to get these shocks, Nate at NewAgeAutoParts is the place to go. Nate was looking after us when we were looking for the Coil Overs and set us up with these, said, hey, have a go. They're a new brand. I've actually been asked by a lot of people, and I mean a lot, about why I've gone these shocks, and not other better known brands. And I can really only say that the only reason I went them is Nate said, can you try these out? I think people deserve to have a go. It's a fairly new brand that's out there, and you've got to start somewhere. I've installed almost every other brand on cars, on MPSs anyway, that you can think of, and generally they're all the same. I've done some that are a little bit more complicated because of the adjustability in them, a little bit more complicated than others, but all in all they're all about the same really. But these are great, good shocks, very happy with them, and I'll be able to do a better review when we get to the track and do a track day with them. Then we'll be able to actually really tell you what the handling and performance of these things is. But yeah, but that's them. That's the scale. Coil Overs. Enjoy the videos of the stance. Thanks for watching.